Hello and welcome to Kit's Photography. I'm Kit from Bremac Photography here in sunny South Australia. Welcome to my channel. Hello and welcome to the show for this week. This time we've got another really big show for you. So I'm going to start off by talking about iPhone cameras and whether they're actually worth it or not. And in the second part, we'll be taking another trip to Monarto Zoo. Now I know I've done this a few times already, however each time is a different thing, and this time we're focusing on the little babies. So they've been, obviously it's that time of year where there are lots and lots of new cubs and new calves, etc, etc. And I know I've shown you the cub lions before, but this time I got some really good shots. But most importantly, there's a new baby rhinoceros there. It's a white rhinoceros, and they are obviously critically endangered, with so many being killed every day for their horn. Now obviously the thing with the horn, which is just a bit ridiculous, is that it's just purely keratin, exactly the same thing that grows in your fingernails and your hair, and so it's not really worth ingesting. I mean, you may as well just chew on your hair, which is not the most delicious thing to do. But still, they are critically endangered, so to see a new one is really wonderful. So I've got some great footage for you there. Now let's talk about iPhone cameras. iPhone cameras here. So they have evolved over the last few years. This is an iPhone 6 Plus. It has a single camera there, which I believe is 8 megapixels. At the time, this was really, really good, and it was good for documentation purposes. The thing is though, when the iPhone 7 came out, a lot of photographers, including myself, lost lots of work because the camera on it was really, really, really good. Now, especially because it had the dual cameras, whereas this one here doesn't have that. The iPhone X, absolutely superb camera in this. Again, with the dual lenses there, which means that you can augment the concept of things like out of focus areas and depth of field and stuff like that, which is pretty good. Then the further upgrade is the iPhone 11 Pro Max. This has 3 cameras on it, and this is the current phone at the moment. It's really good with a 12 megapixel camera. Now I know that the iPhone X has the same 12 megapixel camera in it, but it's still pretty good. But this one here, they've made the lenses a lot larger, get a lot more light in, and you can do much more with it. It is really good. I've been trying it out over the last couple of weeks. It is really good, however, it does not make up for having a $5,500 DSLR. Obviously a DSLR will take a better photograph because that is what it's for. Whereas one of these, it's really for documentation purposes. But again, they do actually take decent photographs. It's really not too bad at all. And I'll give you an example of that right now. This first photograph is from the iPhone X, and it does look pretty good. However, this one here is from the 11 Pro Max, and it is a much, much more crisp photograph. So I've just taken a photograph of my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K that's being filmed right now, and I'm going to do some quick edits. So let's have a look. Okay, so I've got my edits up here, and I'm just going to have a quick look at this. So it's very, very simple. I'm going to adjust some colours, and this does it all automatically, so you can really make it look better than it actually is. Really, it's not a bad photograph at all. Let's adjust some exposure levels, bring that down just a little bit, and some contrast. And there you have it. It's not really too bad at all for what it is. So I did a photo shoot a few years ago where I had to photograph an international touring opera company and do all their publicity shots. And I'd missed out one person, and rather than taking my whole studio down to where I had to shoot, I asked the one person to come up to my place, who was nearby anyway, and I did a quick photograph on my iPhone 7, blurred the background, all that sort of stuff, sent it off from the phone, didn't even put it on the computer. And that is the thing that phones can do these days. They really can take a beautiful photograph, but it still isn't a real photograph in that same sense. It's a digital misapprehension of what a photograph really is. You're not really seeing exactly the same kind of thing as you would see through a big camera lens. But still, they're not too bad, and when it comes to it, you know, if you've got it in your pocket, it's great. It's not so good for photographers, but really when it comes to it, they do good video, they do good photographs. And one of the things that the iPhone does, which is fantastic, is you can do slow motion in 1080 at 240 frames, which is remarkable. I mean, really, that's 10 times 24 frames per second. That's extraordinarily slow motion. Absolutely brilliant. Now, you try doing that in 1080p with a camera that's worth less than $5,000, it's just not going to happen. It's really not going to happen. Even the Blackmagic I've got here will do a maximum really of 120 frames at 2.6K. It can't even do that at 4K. So that is definitely an upside to having an iPhone or a camera phone in general. Well, that's iPhones. So let's go now to Monarto Zoo, where we're going to see some new animals, which I haven't shown before, and we're also going to see some baby rhinoceroses and some absolutely fantastic shots of some lions. We started the day off quite early in the morning, so just after feeding time for most of the animals, and we started off with the yellow-footed rock wallaby. These are beautifully long-tailed, very friendly wallabies who were very friendly and wanted to have a look at the camera. These photographs are quite easy to take because the animals are so photogenic. This little guy came right up to me, and my lens was nearly too long to be able to photograph him. Being able to zoom right in to the little face here brings a lot of expression to the photograph. Then making it black and white gives it even more expression. Our next stop was the chimpanzee enclosure. Again, it was just after feeding time in the morning, so they're all having a lovely munch on their breakfast. This time we caught the bus, so it was off to the American bison. These guys are always fun to photograph because of the fact that they're so large and their colours are so different from the background. This is another Kowalski horse, this time up really close. And what would a trip to Monarto Zoo be without a giraffe? Next on our journey was the black rhino. We've seen this one before, but not this close up. These little guys are antelope. It's just been the lambing season, so there are lots and lots of young ones around. Only one buck, but they said there are 22 young ones. And funnily enough, I actually got an image of a zebra's front end, because usually it's just the back. Now you're going to have a quick view of one of the baby rhinoceroses. However, you're going to have to wait to the end to see better close-up shots. Cheetahs are my favourite animal at Monarto Zoo. These cats are always good to photograph. Black and white gives the photograph a lot more expression. And now it's time for the lions. Again, it's mating season, so the lions were big and rough and rubbing themselves and spraying all over absolutely everything. This one lion was very photogenic, and I was only about 2 meters away from him when I took these photographs. You can see here the lionesses with some cubs in the background. Again, being mating season, the males are getting pretty close to the females, and although the female is encouraging it, she gets angry as well. This is a very proud looking lion. Monarto Zoo do something called the Lion 360, which is where you sit in a cage and the lions come and crawl all over it and you get to feed them. So these lions are on their way for a feeding right now. The cubs have found some water to drink on the road. These two little ones are very photogenic. This one decided to have a seat in front of the bus. This is the cage in which the lions can walk all over. Pretty scary looking to me. And now what you've all been waiting for, a large flightless bird. That's of course an emu, but no, I know what you're really waiting for. You're waiting for a baby rhinoceros, and here we go. This rhinoceros is not very old at all, and in fact has only been on display, when this was filmed, for a couple of days. Look at the size of those ears. Now there were 3 large fully grown rhinoceros, these are white rhinoceros, in this paddock, and then obviously the baby one as well. While we were there, 2 of them started to get annoyed with each other and buck towards each other, but unfortunately I just missed filming it. You know that I like black and white, and that really does bring out the expression. It's very sad to think that some people kill these animals to take their horn for medical purposes, when there's absolutely no evidence at all that there's any health benefit from consuming it. Or after all it is keratin. Fingernails, hair, exactly the same thing. So you may as well just nibble your fingernails. Or go to a hairdresser and buy a big clump of disgusting, horrible someone else's hair. And of course these are the white rhino. They're called that because of a mistranslation of wide from Afrikaans, because their mouth is wide in comparison to the black rhino. Well, I'll stop talking now and let you just look at some footage and some images of the baby rhinoceros. Well, that's about it for Kit's Photography for this week. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for sticking through the whole thing. I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really means a lot. The subscribers are going up slowly, but it is very slowly indeed. So please, please, please hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you next time.
Get out of my office!